Hey everybody, it's the middle of June, and I hope you're having a wonderful summer. I'm making this video with an update about this multi-purpose barrel system we're using here on our mushroom farm to pasteurize, inoculate, incubate, and create large quantities of mushroom spawn. So these things served a bunch of purposes. Initially, I saw them as a means to pasteurize in a hydrated lime solution large amounts of substrate. I thought, okay, we want to make lots and lots and lots of mushrooms. I just don't want to grow a little bit of mushrooms, so I need some barrels. I was taking a look at the barrels, and then I realized these things could serve more than one purpose. I saw a guy who made a video about building a DIY compost turner, I should say, and he used a 55-gallon barrel like this, and he transformed it into something for his purpose. And I thought, wow, if that thing can spin around, that's really useful for me on my mushroom farm. So I whipped together one of these. It's not the ultimate rendition of it, but just put some rollers on there so we can spin the 55-gallon barrels on here to mix up our substrate when we add a bag of spawn. So we can pasteurize in this. We can we can drain it out, and then we can add spawn directly to it and spin it around. We can also then use it as a controlled environment in which to turn one spawn bag into a much larger quantity of spawn that we can use to inoculate large amounts of substrate. So we realized a couple of interesting things is that if it doesn't drain out really well, if you don't drain that out really well, you can end up with a bacterial environment instead of mycelium environment. That's a challenge that we ran into. Another thing we learned is that these holes, while definitely being enough to create an exchange of gases with some micropore tape on there, it's a totally contained environment once we inoculate. But then we end up with a situation where if it rains a lot, then the water can build up in these pores and it can create an anaerobic environment that turns into bacteria. Another challenge that we can run into with this is that if we have these full and sealed off and we're leaving them to spawn, to run a bag of spawn and make it grow, if the conditions can be really super hot, which they have been, we were positioned right there and the sun was blazing for a few days in a row, you can actually cook your spawn and kill it. We baked a batch or two to death. So these things have been super useful, and they'll continue to be super duper useful. We can also use them to intentionally create an anaerobic environment in order to ferment substrate, in particular wood chips. So if we leave some water sitting in here full of wood chips for a couple of weeks, it starts to ferment and it creates a bacterial environment. And why would you want to do that intentionally? This is why, is because when we empty it, the exposure to oxygen that the substrate experiences acts sort of like bleach, and it kills all of the bacteria, and we end up with a substrate. There's these wood chips that are starting to break down and soften up, and they're super moisturized, and when the mycelium hits that, boom, it takes off. Now, I've had to adapt that process. I've been doing that, but sometimes what happens is that we don't want to create an environment for mosquitoes that's what it is that sometimes you see mosquito larvae floating around in it, and so we add some bleach. And that's sort of somewhere between the fermentation process and a sterilization process, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not being super clinical about it, but that's what I've done is let these sit and either add a little bit of bleach or simply let them sit and then dump them, clean them out, and put them right into action. So this system works really well. I like these a lot, but one of the things that I have learned that I realize is actually a pretty significant challenge for us is that because it takes time to do either a fermentation or a cold pasteurization using lime hydrate or hydrated lime, whatever you want to call it, that time factor can seriously jam up our operations and make it hard to make a good workflow, especially when we're working with multiple people on different schedules. We have different You know, we all have different ventures. We have families. We have, you know, some of us have jobs. Some of us are juggling multiple things. So, you know, whenever you have to delay something, that can potentially delay the entire operation and the other like components that converge with it even further. So what I realize is that these things are still useful, but we need something that we can upgrade the system even further. And that's when I came up with this, which I didn't come up with it. I mean, Paul Stamets is the one who taught me about this, or told me about it. I mean, it's in his book. He didn't tell me personally, I wish. But we got this steel drum, which we can put on a propane burner, and then we can dunk whatever substrate inside of a cage into it and pasteurize it with boiling water or with steam. I'm leaning towards steam because we will only have to fill part of the barrel, and also steam. Well, steam is just badass. Steam is an underrated, you know, solution to various different situations. So I'm going to steampunk it. Anyway, that's the next step for that. We're still going to use these barrels for various different things. They're super duper useful. They were dirt cheap. They've allowed us to create an operation, you know, with very minimal initial investment in mushroom spawn, to turn that spawn into a very, very, like an exponential area of our environment is now inoculated with, I think we have somewhere between 12 and 14 different species and strains of gourmet and medicinal mushrooms. And we're going to continue to grow that. We're capturing wild species, and we're capturing species from various different farmers markets and growing those. And then we're just adding from the different mushroom spawns and different strains from different providers and farmers from around the country. So we're just operating into the suburbs, folks, for now. Now, like, we have run into a little bit of flack from the bylaw guys, but for the most part, it's just a couple of nosy neighbors who are getting up in our situation. But it's taken off. It's working really, really well. We're getting all kinds of volunteer species coming up from a few of the aborted projects, which is just a testament to the power of mycelium. We've got, you know, this is a wood chip bed. We have some log culture going on over here. Over here, I'm going to show, this is the proof of concept. I decided I'd come up with a totally new method of growing mushrooms that I'd never seen anybody do this before. So this is what I've come up with, is these cages that are these large chunks of, you can put these large blocks of mycelium into, and we can grow these really, really large applications of mushrooms. Look, they're all growing underneath. We got to take care of this today because these have got to go. But look at all these mushrooms. Isn't that beautiful? It's a beautiful thing, right? So this is what we're up to over here at Renegade Sports, which is the playful name I decided to create for our farm. You can see mushrooms, and this is just one species. There's going to be this mushrooms growing out of here. There's going to be mushrooms growing out of here. We got a bunch of volunteers in the backyard. Let's see. We're doing a quick walk around at the end of the video. I was just talking about the barrels there, but let's go and take a look through the whole farm. We have volunteers coming up. Here's some mushrooms popping up there. All through this bed, we have pink oysters, which I'm going to do a whole video on. But they're starting to grow. The mushrooms are starting to grow, and it's a beautiful thing. There they are. Look at these pink oyster mushrooms coming up. And this wasn't even something we were trying to do. We tried to do it before, and then we said, oh, let's scrap that hay and just use it as a hugelkultur. So as you can see, and over here we got some more mushrooms growing there. I'm not sure if that is an oyster or not. I have to take a closer look. I'm not going to eat it because I think it might be just something random. But I know what most of these guys are. So things are going really, really well here. And we have mushrooms for sale now too. Like we are officially in business. We've got probably about somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds of mushrooms growing over here. Over here, I'll show you this quickly before I end the video. We have these beautiful lion's manes that are starting to pop up. So yeah, here we are. We are Renegade Spores, and we are officially here in Ontario, in York region, doing some really cool renegade permaculture and mycology and mushroom farming. And we're open for business. So if you want to come check out our mushrooms, shoot us a message, drop us a line. Look down in the comments. There should be a website and a contact soon. And we're looking forward to sharing our delicious gourmet and medicinal mushrooms with you and your families.